Something is very wrong in Toronto tonight, and the man who used to be the human definition of the summer just quietly lit another $1.5 million on fire in front of the entire planet, while a rapper you had never heard of 6 days ago is being paraded as the secret architect of Kendrick Lamar's entire career. That is where we are on the 21st of July, 2026. Aubrey Drake Graham lost the World Cup bet on Argentina 2 days ago. Watch Spain lift the trophy in real time behind a 19-year-old Lamine Yamal. Got dragged across ESPN and Bloomberg for the reported $1.5 million loss. And somewhere in a group chat right now, a Loverboy stan is typing paragraphs about a mystery man named Roger, while their guy is trending as a curse instead of a king. 2 nights before that, Jay-Z closed his Reasonable Doubt 30th anniversary run with a freestyle at the Roots picnic that took direct shots his own fans in Toronto quietly liked. And in less than 48 hours from the moment you were hearing this, on Thursday, July 23rd at 6:30 Pacific, YG and The Game are stepping into a Complex-hosted Apple Music-streamed Versus in Los Angeles that Whack 100 has been on live all week, trying to pre-frame as a rigged proxy war for the Drake and Kendrick beef. 4 fires, 1 fan base, 1 collapsing center of gravity. And here is what nobody in the certified Lost Boy defense industry wants you to notice. The announcement quietly rolling out of the PG Lang camp for the 23rd is not a coincidence. The date is the tell. The proxy war framing is the tell. Whack going scorched earth 3 days early is the tell. Everything you have been watching about this specific week has been framed around the wrong question, and by the time we get to the complex ownership breakdown in this video, and I promise you we are getting there, you are going to understand why the exact moment the machine tried to stage a surrogate battle to bail out its franchise player was the exact moment Kendrick Lamar's team turned the calendar itself into a weapon. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, and subscribe. Let's get into it. Let me set the table for anybody just walking in on this, because there is a lot moving at once, and every single piece of it connects back to one story. The context is not just a rap beef anymore. The context is a full ecosystem realignment happening in real time. 2 summers ago, in 2024, Kendrick Lamar and Drake had the biggest one-on-one rap exchange of the streaming era. Kendrick came out of it with the Super Bowl halftime show, the Grand National Tour with SZA that Billboard and Polestar tracked at $358 million across 39 shows, the Grammy sweep, the plaques, and the cultural high ground. Drake came out of it with a lawsuit against Universal Music Group over Not Like Us, a 9 album called Iceman that Rolling Stone and the Associated Press both flagged as an extended rebuttal to Kendrick, and a fan base that has been in denial ever since. That is the backdrop. Now zoom to right now. In the last 7 days alone, we have had a Jay-Z freestyle at his own 30-year anniversary of Reasonable Doubt that Revolt clipped and ran with. We have had Complex officially greenlight a YG versus The Game Versus on Apple Music for July 23rd. We have had Bloomberg and The News and Leadership Nigeria all confirm the $1.5 million Drake bet loss on the World Cup final. And we have had a rapper named Roger going viral on Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts, pushing the claim that Kendrick allegedly stole his aesthetic. And on top of all of that, Kendrick Lamar's camp is being reported to have a new proxy war rollout landing on the same date as the Versus. Same day, same hour, same city. That is not a scheduling accident. The stakes here are not just who wins a rap battle that already ended 15 months ago. The stakes are the valuation of the biggest catalog in modern hip-hop, the credibility of Complex as a media outlet after the NTWRK acquisition, the future of the Versus format after Apple Music took over, and the question of whether the Drake defense apparatus has any credibility left when the machine that built him is now the same machine quietly writing his eulogy in real time. So, the question is simple. Why is every attempted defense the Loverboy camp runs making it worse? And why does the exact same fingerprint keep showing up at the scene of every fire? Let's start with what is actually on the table you can see, because surface evidence number 1 is the World Cup bet, and it is not a rumor and it is not a subtweet. Bloomberg ran the headline on July 19th. The News in Pakistan confirmed it. Leadership Nigeria reported the loss as a $1.5 million USDT cryptocurrency bet placed on stake with a potential return north of $5 million. Instagram had the original screenshot floating around days before the final. Spain won 1-0. Lamine Yamal turned 19 years old and closed the tournament out, and the Drake curse trended globally within an hour of the whistle. This is not a hip-hop blog running with it. This is mainstream financial and sports media openly using a rapper as a reverse indicator for whichever team he backs. Add up the reported public losses across the last 12 months of NBA Finals bets, boxing bets, Super Bowl bets, and now the World Cup, and you are staring at a number that has quietly become a running joke in the sportsbook community. People keep telling me it's only $1.5 million, like the man is running a lemonade stand. Run that back 8 or 9 times in a calendar year, and you have a mid-sized artist's entire album budget lit on fire in front of a camera. And the pattern is not that he loses, the pattern is that he broadcasts the bet first, which hands the opposing team a psychological edge for free. If you are an athlete in 2026 with any tie to this man, you should be begging him privately not to publicize the wager, because at this point, the certified lost boy tagging your name is a curse in itself.
Surface evidence number 2 is the Iceman chart reality nobody in the defense camp wants to sit with. The Associated Press wrote it plainly this cycle. Rolling Stone wrote it plainly. Iceman is being framed as a Drake rebuttal to Kendrick Lamar, and every single article covering the rollout keeps circling back to the fact that this album exists as a response, not as a standalone artistic statement. The narrative being pushed by the stands is that this album is a return to summer of 2018 form. Pull the actual Billboard chart from 2018 and put it next to the Billboard chart from July 2026. In 2018, he had multiple records simultaneously in the top 20, with Scorpion holding the top of the album chart, while In My Feelings and Nice for What ran the singles chart in tandem. Right now, he has a rollout that opened at number 1, held a respectable second and third week, and then began the slide every heavily front-loaded album takes when the fans stopped streaming it on repeat. That is not domination, that is presence. Those are 2 different English words, and the fan base is using one to describe the other because the real one hurts. Surface evidence number 3 is what happened at the Roots picnic last month and what Jay-Z did on the Reasonable Doubt anniversary run. Speed on the Beat reported the full breakdown on July 13th. Yahoo Entertainment covered the London leg. Instagram clips from Revolt and from Jay-Z's own team confirmed the freestyle addressed the current climate in language that anyone with functioning ears understood, and the Toronto camp went quiet publicly, while their fans went nuclear on Twitter and TikTok trying to nitpick Hov's vinyl release, his haircut in the concert clip, and finally, the man signing autographs outside the venue. Think about what is being shown to you versus what is being told to you. A 30-year veteran doing a legacy anniversary run and dropping a freestyle that Billboard just named one of the 50 best songs of the year triggers a fan base into attacking his hairline. That is not confidence. That is a hostage situation dressed up as commentary. Surface evidence number 4 is the Roger rollout, and this one is genuinely the funniest and most revealing of the entire week. A rapper most people had never heard of before last Tuesday, going by the name Roger, went viral on YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels, pushing the claim that Kendrick Lamar allegedly built his entire aesthetic, his cadence, and even pieces of his catalog by copying him. The clips have been circulating with captions accusing Kendrick of being a puppet of the elites who steals from smaller artists, and Drake's fan base grabbed that narrative in under 24 hours like it was a life raft in the middle of the Atlantic. Now, can we have the real conversation for a second? The scrubbing of an artist's old catalog when they sign to a major is one of the most common things in the modern music business. Labels routinely wipe pre-existing uploads to control rollout timing and re-release the music officially. That is not a conspiracy. That is a Tuesday at Universal. And you cannot claim aesthetic ownership over sonic themes that have been circulating in West Coast hip-hop since long before Roger allegedly did any of it. But none of that stopped the narrative, because the narrative was never really about Roger. The narrative was about giving the certified lost boy defense industry a new emotional support witness, and that leads directly into what is coming next. And oh, do I have more for you, because the sports curse, the chart cope, the Hov freestyle, and the Roger conspiracy are just the appetizer. The stands are really not going to like what is coming in the next stretch of this video, because we are about to get into what they have been doing with the Charlemagne conversation this week, what they have been trying to do with the Jay-Z pawn narrative, what allegedly went down in the DJ Academics live streams on the 21st, and most importantly, why the exact same date being locked in for the YG and and the Game versus on the 23rd is not a coincidence for Kendrick Lamar's camp. And by the time we get to the industry breakdown after the pattern interrupt, you are going to see why the ownership structure of complex networks flips Whack 100's entire narrative on its head. Watch this. Layer 2, the cultural evidence, opens with the Roger echo chamber and the DJ Academic sit-down with Charlemagne the God, and both of these need to be pulled apart carefully. The framing from the Loverboy side is that Academics exposed the industry as a manipulated narrative machine and revealed Kendrick to be a plant. What actually happened is Academics walked into a conversation with a genuine media juggernaut, made allegations he could not source with anything approaching documentation, and got taken apart in real time on his own audio. If you are going to sit across from Charlemagne and argue that hip-hop is CIA-engineered propaganda and the current culture-defining artist is a puppet of the deep state,
you have to bring receipts. He brought vibes. He brought a laptop full of tweets. He brought the same 3 talking points the fan base has been recycling since the summer of 2024. And now the same fans who begged for that debate are pretending the debate never happened, or worse, they are cutting 3-second clips of Kendrick blinking and calling those clips a Kendrick concession. This is why these arguments only live in the basement of a live stream and never in a room with actual pushback. Cultural evidence piece 2 is what the Jay-Z pawn narrative has evolved into after the Roots Picnic freestyle. The stands are actively pushing the idea that Kendrick Lamar is Jay-Z's pawn and that Jay failed to eliminate Drake through him. 2 enormous problems with that framing. Kendrick is not signed to Jay-Z. He never has been. Kendrick's business infrastructure runs through PG Lang and Interscope, not through Roc Nation. The battle in 2024 and 2025 was not framed by anybody serious as an assassination attempt. That framing came from Kanye West during one of his rotating position swings, and Kanye has publicly flip-flopped on his own alignment in this beef roughly every 2 weeks since the spring of 24. The battle was about who was the better rapper in a specific exchange. And by any honest standard, by public reception, by chart movement, by cultural residue, by the Super Bowl halftime that followed, the better man won that specific exchange. Now let me give the counterargument its full moment, because credibility matters here. Drake has continued to release music at an aggressive pace. Iceman charting is genuine. Holding 2nd and 3rd weeks at his career stage is legitimately harder than opening at number 1. That is a real accomplishment, and I am not going to sit here and pretend it is not. But holding weeks with a rollout that itself keeps invoking his rival's name in almost every song is not the flex the fan base thinks it is. If Kendrick did not matter, Kendrick would not still be the gravitational center of the villain's own album cycle. Cultural evidence piece 3 is the YG and the Game announcement itself, and this is where things get genuinely wild. Complex ran the official write-up. Verzuz confirmed it on Threads. Apple Music is streaming it. The date is Thursday, July 23rd at 6:30 Pacific in Los Angeles. Now on the surface, this is a beautiful thing for hip-hop. 2 Compton natives, 2 catalog heavyweights, a proper West Coast Verzuz moment. But watch what happened in the 48 hours after the announcement. 100 got on live and immediately began framing the event as a fix. He argued that Complex is now controlled by Jimmy Iovine, that Iovine has ties to the Interscope and PG Lang ecosystem, that YG is being pre-crowned as the winner, and that the entire Verzuz is a surrogate war designed to make Game look weak because Game has become an unofficial Drake ally in this cycle. That framing is currently everywhere on YouTube reaction channels, and it is exactly wrong, as we are about to prove in the industry breakdown coming up. Cultural evidence piece 4 is the Kendrick Lamar rollout being reported to land on the exact same day as the Verzuz. Reports from multiple hip-hop channels indicate that the PG Lang camp has quietly locked a major announcement for July 23rd, same day as the Verzuz, same news cycle, same media bandwidth. And here is the tell that everyone is missing. Kendrick Lamar does not schedule around a Verzuz. Kendrick Lamar makes a Verzuz schedule around him. When the biggest name in the genre picks the day the industry has already locked for a competing spectacle and drops on top of it, that is not a coincidence, and it is not aggressive booking. That is a message. That is somebody saying, I will absorb whatever spotlight the machine tries to build around a surrogate war and turn it into a pedestal for my own moment. Now here is the gear shift, because everything up to this point has been the visible layer. The real story of what is happening this week is not about music, it is about ownership. Here is the interrupt pattern. Stop thinking about this as a rap beef and start thinking about it as an ownership problem. Angle 1 of the systemic breakdown is the catalog and publishing situation on the Drake side. Music Business Worldwide and Hits Daily Double have reported across the last 2 years on the increasing leverage attached to Drake's discography value, his publishing rights, his OVO business partnerships, and his tour infrastructure. When your catalog is your collateral and the culture cools on you, every single quarter matters. That is why the release cadence out of Toronto has stopped looking like an artist expressing himself and started looking like a machine attempting to keep a valuation intact. Iceman was not just an album. Iceman was an inventory event. Flooding the platforms with a 9-album loaded with alleged jabs at Kendrick, A$AP Rocky, and Rihanna is not passion. In this context, allegedly, it is asset management. The reason the certified lost boy cannot log off, the reason he cannot go silent for 18 months and recalibrate the way Kendrick did between Damn and Mr. Morale, is because his entire business model requires constant motion. Motion is the mask. Angle 2 is the media ecosystem, and this is where Wack 100 walked directly into his own trap this week. He got on live and floated that YG versus Game versus is a setup because Jimmy Iovine is allegedly the owner of Complex, and Complex is hosting the versus in partnership with Apple Music. He said, watch the clipping, watch the narrative control, watch how they crown YG. The problem is the actual documented ownership picture. Complex Networks was acquired in February 2024 by NTWR, a live stream shopping platform. Billboard reported the deal at approximately $108 million. Digital Music News covered the investor breakdown. Universal Music Group came in as a strategic partner. Iovine and Universal joined as investors. Iovine is not the sole owner. He's one name on a cap table. And here's the part Wack conveniently skipped over. Drake himself has been publicly reported as an early investor in NTWR, with business ties to Complex chief executive Aaron Levant going back to 2019. Which means if you actually run Wack's own conspiracy logic all the way through the ownership diagram, the platform tilt would allegedly favor Drake and Game, not YG. So one of two things is true. Either the conspiracy theory is wrong on its face, or Wack is preloading an excuse for a Game loss because he already knows the catalog fight is not the whole fight. Angle 3 is the streaming economy and the Spotify catalog ranking nobody in the Toronto defense wants to acknowledge. Sean Carter, the same Jay-Z the stands have spent 2 years calling irrelevant and old and out of touch, is currently sitting inside the top 10 of monthly listeners globally on Spotify, without releasing a solo album since 2017. Let that sit for a second. No promo cycle, no feature run, no album rollout, no manufactured complex cover story, just catalog and gravity. The Reasonable Doubt anniversary run, the Roots Picnic freestyle, the London show, the vinyl press, all of that has done in 6 weeks what an entire Iceman rollout is straining to accomplish across 3 quarters. And Kendrick, the man they said
failed, walked out of the battle with the halftime, the tour, the plaques, the sweep at the Grammys, and the cultural high ground. Meanwhile, the same media apparatus that spent a decade telling us Drake's numbers were untouchable is now telling us the numbers do not tell the whole story. Numbers only mattered when the numbers agreed with them. And now that a rapper named Roger from a viral Instagram reel is being treated as a more credible source than the actual Billboard charts, we have officially reached the moment where the defense of the franchise player is more embarrassing than any diss track could ever be. This is asset protection dressed up as fan behavior, and it is falling apart in real time. Here is the truth bomb, and I want you to sit with this sentence because everything in this video has been walking toward it.
The Drake defense apparatus is no longer defending Drake's music. It is defending Drake's valuation. Every recycled talking point, every Kendrick is a pawn tweet, every Jay-Z is old jab, every Roger invented his flow conspiracy, every attempt to hijack the YG and Game verses as a proxy war, every allegation that Complex is rigged against Drake's ally when the ownership diagram literally includes Drake himself as an early investor in the parent company. All of it is asset protection. That is what you were watching. When a fan base is spending more energy denying that the man they root for lost a battle than celebrating the music he is actively releasing, the fan base has stopped being an audience and started being a public relations wing. And the tell is the $1.5 million bet on Argentina. That loss did not just hit different because of the amount. That loss exposed the entire system in miniature. He is publicly wrong. He is publicly losing. He is publicly funding the wrong side of every outcome. And the same crowd that will tell you a Billboard number is gospel truth will simultaneously tell you a Bloomberg headline about the sports book is meaningless. Now let me answer the objection before the comments type it, because the stands always try to interrupt this exact sentence. Nobody serious ever said Drake's career was ending. Any adult watching in 2024 knew he would still sell, still tour, still chart, still make money. That was never the argument. The argument was that the aura of invincibility, the untouchable king framing, the 10-year run of being culturally undeniable, that specific era of dominance was ending. And that ended. Iceman charting is not a rebuttal to that. Iceman charting is the natural residual of a 2-decade artist with a machine behind him. He is a middle-aged rapper now. He is not the young buck the fanbase keeps pretending he is. He is competing in a genre that has always been merciless about age, and the people around him allegedly know it, which is why every rollout now leans on invoking his rival's name instead of just letting the music breathe. Kendrick Lamar picking July 23rd as the day his camp lands a new announcement, on the same day Complex and Apple Music are hosting a versus that Whack 100 has been trying to spin as a proxy for Drake, is the exact tell that gives the whole grift away. Because if the beef were actually over, if Kendrick had actually failed, if the machine were actually still tilted toward Toronto, there would be no need to counter-program the verses at all. The very act of putting the announcement on the 23rd is a public statement that the gravitational center of hip-hop currently lives in Compton, not in Ontario, and that PG Lang can absorb any spectacle Complex tries to build and turn it into free promotion for whatever they are about to reveal. The hero resolution is not a triumph moment, it is a confirmation moment. Kendrick Lamar did the job at 100% every single time, without needing to broadcast a bet, without needing to sue a label, without needing to invent a rapper named Roger, without needing a fan base to attack an older legend's haircut on Twitter. He picked the days he wanted to move on. He picked the venues he wanted to perform at. He picked the tour partner he wanted to run with. He picked the Super Bowl stage. He picked the Grand National run with SZA that Billboard and Polestar together clocked at $358 million. And now he is picking the 23rd of July, 2026 to remind an entire industry who actually controls the calendar. Meanwhile, Sean Carter, the man they said was irrelevant, just closed a Reasonable Doubt anniversary run that put a new freestyle on Billboard's 50 Best Songs of the Year list, quietly reminded the streaming economy that he's a top 10 monthly Spotify artist without a solo album in almost a decade, and delivered his Roots picnic set with the kind of composure the villain camp has forgotten how to imitate. The contrast one-liner is simple, and it lands hard. One man is being remembered, the other is being defended. Those are not the same activity. Being remembered is what happens when your work outlasts the news cycle. Being defended is what happens when your work needs a fan base to run interference every single week just to keep the valuation intact. The hero is at rest, the villain is at motion. And motion, as we said in the industry breakdown, is the mask.
If you have made it to this point in the video, you already understand the truth. The right person is in the right position. The evidence speaks for itself. The receipts are already public. And the calendar for the 23rd of July is the loudest thing anybody in this genre has said all summer. This is only the start, and I mean that specifically. The YG versus the Game versus on Thursday, July 23rd at 6:30 Pacific in Los Angeles is going to be the first live room stress test of the whole surrogate war theory, and I will be watching every clip, every crowd reaction, and every post-event narrative attempt in real time. On top of that, the PG Lang announcement being reported to land at the exact same date is going to reshape the entire second half of 2026. And depending on what specifically drops, we are looking at either a tour announcement, a new project, or a feature-length film beat that connects back to the delayed Paramount feature currently locked in for March 2026. On top of that, the Drake sports betting saga, based on the current pace, is going to give us at least 2 more public losses before Labor Day, and I fully intend to cover every one of them the same way. If you are not subscribed right now, you are going to miss the exact video where all 3 of these threads collide, because they are absolutely going to collide, and I already know which week it's going to happen. Massive shout out to everyone on channel memberships and everyone sending super thanks. You are the reason this channel keeps moving. Next up, we are going deep on the one Iceman rollout decision that allegedly cost the Toronto camp 7 figures in the first week alone. Why one specific feature was pulled at the very last minute after a phone call from an executive whose name has not been reported in any credible outlet yet, and what a certain OVO decision maker reportedly said in the room when the second week numbers came back. You are not going to believe who was actually in that meeting. You are not going to believe what the number was, and you are definitely not going to believe who leaked it. See you in the next one.